Okay, YouTube, this is going to be a video on basically the disease of Christianity, of the Christian religion, what I like to call Christ insanity, and all of the other various social ills and anti-nature degeneracy that has spawned from it. And this is basically just explaining how that is, and that includes things like communism, uh, feminism, white guilt, the concept that white people are somehow inherently evil. All of that comes from Christianity. All of that comes from this disease within the human species that has been passed around from culture to culture, like biological warfare that we call Christianity. Um, Again, Christ insanity is the ideal. That, again, what is Christ insanity? It's an anti-nature ideal, the ideal that nature is somehow flawed. The earth is the beginner and generator of all life is somehow bad. You know, the ideal that the sun and the sky and the moon and the ground is somehow a bad thing. That you need to look to this outside force, this imaginary deity, Jehovah, this monstrous being who genocides and murders millions of people in the Bible, that you need to look to him for some kind of salvation, instead of looking into your own heart, into yourself, into perhaps your communities or your nations. Look to this shit. And again, I say this, the ideal that sex is all bad. Well, let me say this first. Feminism comes from Christianity. Why? Well, let me say this. The ideal that sex is all bad, that all sex is inherently rape, is a Christian ideal. This comes from Christianity. Well, what really, at the end of the day, is feminism anymore, but the ideal that sex is all bad. In fact, it was the Christian, I can't think of the word, but it was a Christian movement, ultimately, in the beginning, that it was basically a Victorian era, trying to bring more of Victorian England and those that sort of traditionalism and Christian values to America. That's largely what spawned feminism, because they hid behind the vote. They wanted to vote for women. Well, there were other groups that were already getting the vote for women before they even came along, ultimately. The main thing they did was they supported prohibition, and they were against race mixing. They wanted men to shave their beards and cut their hair and do so forth, so on and so forth. And this was largely what feminism was, and this is what they supported, basically. And that was in the 1800s. Now, what is feminism ultimately? It's the ideal that sex is bad. That sex is somehow, that having sex with a woman is an oppressive act. You're oppressing her. And you saw the same thing in Rome. This is the best example of it. In Rome, there was a belief that there was a group that went around, there was a Christian group that told Roman women not to have sex with their wives, and they became very large, and Roman husbands began to complain to their Caesar and to their Senate that, hey, you know, why in our eyes fucking us anymore? And this being Rome, not being the most peaceful or egalitarian society, had them rounded up and killed, and that's not right. I don't agree with that at all. You don't just kill people like that. But again, this was Rome, and you don't have to tell me about it. I'm a fan of the Vikings, and I don't mean the football team. So I'm no fan of Rome. But the point is, they've been doing this all the way back to ancient times. Christianity is feminism. Feminism is Christianity. It's the atheistic version of Christianity. It's the offspring of the Christianity. You even have feminists now claiming and campaigning to wear burqas like the Muslim women do in the Middle East because they don't want guys looking at them. It's anti-nature and it's bullshit. The communism, the concept that you shouldn't have possessions, that your work, that you create something. Obama said, you know, you didn't build that, you didn't create that. In other words, you don't have a right to own possessions or to achieve your own wealth or to reach your own potential. That we should all have no more than the other. This is a Christian concept. Communism is an atheistic form of Christianity. White guilt, that's, again, 200 years, the ideal of the sins of the fathers, the sins of the mother, the sins of the ancestor. That is a Christian ideal. that first appears in the Old Testament and even more so in the New Testament. That someone can do something bad 200 years ago, that someone can do something bad 200 years ago, and you're now to blame for it. That again, you're to blame. You'd be to blame for, again, some idiot. Maybe your ancestor. Maybe he's not even related to you. Some white guy plops down on Indian land, kills a bunch of people, and enslaves the blacks, and now you're to be blamed for it 200 years later. That's a white ideal called the sins of the father. Um, and it continues many generations into existence. All of this social justice warrior, progressive cultural Marxist bullshit can be traced back to Christianity. Now you have the Pope coming out saying that he's against the right to bear arms. Well, of course he's against that. He's also against the concept of borders. He thinks we should take in the refugees. He thinks we should legalize all the illegal immigrants from the Latin world. Of course he believes that, because you can't have guns and be a Christian. He's right. If you're a real Christian, you can have a gun. The Bible clearly tells you, if I come up to you with a ball bat and bash your fucking head in and say, give me everything you got, it says in the Bible, you should give me your fucking coat and your shirt off your back, and give me your wife if I want to fuck her or rape her. Give me everything you have. It's mine now. Your Bible tells you that. It is a poisonous, sick, and psychotic doctrine that no nation can survive. And our nation has now finally begun to truly believe in this shit and accept these ideals. The entire nation was founded on the concept of the Constitution, which is an ancient, very anti-Christian doctrine to escape Christian civilization because it was decaying and rotting and dying. Let us get the hell out of Christendom, which was Europe, and start up our own nation. We've now accepted this, and all these young people that come at you with knives, they have accepted this Christian disease. They have accepted black power and I don't need no man, and female empowerment, and kill all men, and let's all be equal, and give up your guns and give up your possessions and let me live in your house and I don't have to fucking work, and all this bullshit. That's all Christian. There should be no rich, that you didn't build that, it's all mine. It all comes from the Christian mindset. It comes from this concept of this very anti-pagan concept, anti-nature, of we're all, again, you're part of a collective. You're a clog in a clog in a machine. You exist to further the bulk. That's it. Nazism, communism, it's all ties back. Mussolini's fascism, and it can all be tied back and traced back to one singular event, the death of Christ on the cross. That was a moment the ancient race died and the new way begun. And it is being used by our corporate masters, the banks of the world, to enslave humanity. Christianity is a disease. Communism is the atheistic version of it. It needs to be destroyed. P666.